This video is not about Ugin. If you have not read the Tarkir Dragonstorm story, scroll away now. Tarkir Dragonstorm is the end of the Dragonstorm arc, the second arc of like 3 mini arcs comprising like a big 3-year story. And things happen in it, so if you want to read it, go read it. But if you're okay with being spoiled, let's talk about Nicol Bolas. So after about 6 or 7 years imprisoned, Nicol Bolas is free. But in those 6 or 7 years, we probably have a ton of new story fans, especially those of you who are following me here. I know a lot of you are newer, or maybe not as plugged into story stuff, both of which are fine. So let's talk about who Nicol Bolas is. Now, this is a very abbreviated version of his history because Nicol Bolas was omnipresent in the post-mending era. So we get Bolas's earliest history in the Chronicle of Bolas, which was some web fiction that came out just before War of the Spark, more or less. I think it came out alongside Magic 2019. And we learned that the Elder Dragons of Dominaria were all spawned when, like, the Dragon's wing clipped the plane, basically. A bunch of Elder Dragon eggs fell to the ground and hatched. All of them had 2 names, except for one egg that had 2 dragons twinned, Ugin and Nicol. They witnessed one of their sisters immediately be set on and killed by humans. This is some 20,000 plus years ago. And Bolas is trapped under a tree. These events sort of set the tone for his future because he decides he is never going to feel powerless again. Jealous of the other Elder Dragons, he gives himself a second name, Nicol Bolas. And he eventually starts creating a cruel empire for himself, and the revelation of which ignites his brother's spark. His brother disappears. Nicol thinks he's dead. Wanting to eliminate his rivals, Bolas starts a war, at the end of which only a handful of Elder Dragons survive. The war ends when Ugin returns and reveals to Bolas there's more to the multiverse than Dominaria. And while Bolas claims his spark ignites, there's also theories that he ended up stealing it from this creature called the Demonic Leviathan, a planeswalker that he has a massive duel with. He ends up eating it for like 40 days, and all that's left of it in modern Dominaria are its rib cages, which is known as the Talon Gates of Madara. So we actually know very little about Nicol Bolas's time as an interplanar warlord, as an early planeswalker. In fact, we didn't know he was alive at all until the Legends 2 cycle. In these novels, Nicol Bolas is the God Emperor of Madara on Dominaria, which he likes because this is where he had his big duel. He also claims it's one of the only places he can manifest on Dominaria because it's convergence of red, blue, and black mana. We also know at some point he fought and killed Ugin in the Meditation Realm. And then when he learned Ugin survived that experience by becoming this spirit dragon, he shows up to kill him again, mainly because he had discovered some planes where Azor, the Sphinx planeswalker who founded the Guild Pact on Ravnica, had left evidence of himself and discovers their plot to imprison him on Ixalan. So he kills his brother, or so he thinks, and leaves Azor stranded on Ixalan. A few centuries after that, his Imperial champion on Madara goes rogue. This is Tetsuo Umezawa, who tricks him into a confrontation in the Meditation Realm. The Meditation Realm at this point is sort of a cognitive space that you access by, it's like an astral realm. You astral project there. But while Bolas is confronting Umezawa here, Umezawa had cast a Meteor Hammer spell to destroy his body. And this leaves Bolas dead and disembodied for like 800 years, until the Time Spiral Crisis, also known as the Mending. He appears as a voice to Venser, calling himself Sensei Ryu, and ends up tricking them into allowing him to basically be re-embodied. He's not helpful during the Mending. He does seal some time rifts. But this is where the Eldest Reborn comes from. You can see he is sort of lingering beyond the time rift he created when he dueled that demonic Leviathan. That's also where the card Nicol Bolas Arisen comes from. The Talon Gates are behind him. But Bolas has a problem. The Mending has stripped his almost godlike powers. So while he still has time, he sets a bunch of different plans in motion while he still has that power, and then ultimately retreats to Grixis, a shard of Alara, using that and the Meditation Realm as like his home bases. So what's important to note is that Bolas didn't have a single grand design. He put a bunch of plates spinning and then plucked whatever worked out. When we see him again after the mending, it's on Alara, and he's trying to use the power of the conflux of all 5 shards of Alara coming back together in order to sort of kickstart his abilities again. He succeeds, but he's about to destroy the plane when someone else shows up. One of his agents had killed Ajani's brother by accident, and this starts Ajani on his path. Ajani snatches a sliver of power left over that Bolas hadn't consumed and uses it to create a soul duplicate of him, which runs him off the plane. And from then on, Bolas has been sort of wary of Ajani. He gains Sarkhan Val as a minion during this time and ends up sending him to Zendikar. He also regained Tezzeret as a minion. You see, Tezzeret had previously been a minion of his who went rogue and stole an organization called the Infinite Consortium from Bolas. Jace gets involved in all of that and ends up leaving Tezzeret mind-wiped and near death on Kamigawa. If you know the character Nashi, when his village gets burned down is in the book Agents of Artifice, which is when all this takes place. But all you really need to know is that Tezzeret was a rebellious minion that Bolas got his hooks back into and sent to New Phyrexia. On Zendikar, Sarkhan meets Chandra and Jace, both of whom had been lured there by things Bolas had planted. A lot of this is in the early webcomic stuff I showed with Sarkhan's story if you go back a couple days. This freed the Eldrazi, undoing his brother's work, and Bolas was basically trying to see who would show up to deal with this. On the other hand, Bolas has Tezzeret inoculated to completion to the Phyrexian oil and sends him to New Phyrexia, which tolerates him, ostensibly to investigate, but in hindsight, he's probably looking for interplanar technology. That brings us up to the Magic Origins era. Without getting too in-depth, Tezzeret is sent to Kaladesh, where he succeeds in finding interplanar technology, which is a key part of Bolas's plan. On Amonkhet, the plans he set into place decades ago have produced a huge army of these eternal warriors called the Dread Horde. On Ixalan, he uses the Planar Bridge and an agent in Vraska to recover the Immortal Sun, which is what was intended to imprison him on Ixalan. He takes it for himself for reasons unknown yet. And then finally on Ravnica, he sort of incepts the idea into Niv Mizzet's mind to create an interplanar beacon to summon a lot of planeswalkers. They think they're building it to summon aid for a incoming Bolas invasion of Ravnica. Meanwhile, Bolas strings along the Gatewatch, sort of encouraging them to play hero and letting them get the pieces of information they need to know there's going to be an invasion of Ravnica. Bolas also turns out to be behind Liliana's demon deals, so she owes him fealty or death, basically. Bolas's invasion begins, but it's revealed that the invasion of Ravnica was only secondary. He was looking for all those planeswalkers to show up so that he could steal a massive amount of sparks and regain the godlike power he lost in the mending. However, Ugin, who was secretly alive, was working behind the scenes to undermine him, and at a crucial moment, Liliana Vess turns on Bolas and desparks him. Ugin appears and drags Bolas away to the meditation realm where he's going to work as his jailer and has Jace Beleren cover it all up. Because both Ugin and Bolas have come back to life before, there's no guarantee just killing him is going to solve the problem. And there he safely remained until Tarkir Dragonstorm. Jace Beleren's plot for the last 2 arc has led him here in order to use the meditation realm, which turns out to be sort of a substrate to the multiverse, in order to try and fix the multiverse by creating a better one. The problem is, Ugin and Bolas are there, Narset and Elspeth are also there and disrupt his plans. The whole place comes crumbling down, Jace is seemingly erased from existence, until the Stinger, and Nicol Bolas escapes. And now we have a very much alive Nicol Bolas running around the multiverse. Sorry for the long one, but Bolas is one of the longest running characters in Magic, so there's a lot to cover.